What's going on, boys and girls? Welcome back to another Final Fantasy 7 Ever Crisis video. Alright guys, we've got a lot of changes that have been happening in this game since the Rebirth drop and now the new banner from Matt and Zach. So I think this is a very, very good time to update our character tier list. That's right, there's not enough going on in game to talk about right now because most of the events are currently time gated. We've talked all about the banners already. We've talked all about builds, weapons, etc. So the last thing I do want to talk about now is the character tier list. Now, I'm going to preface this right away because some people will come out and just say it, and I'm going to say it with you guys anyways. Is there a need for a tier list? The answer is absolutely not. There's never a need for a tier list, but we have one anyways because some people do rely on them a little bit in regards to using them and understanding which wishlist characters to go for and then which characters to focus on in that wishlist. So there is some use to it, and we're going to talk about each one of these characters. We're going to try to do a little bit of a breakdown, explain why they are where they are, and there have been some major changes obviously because of the banner releases of some of the newer weapons. So let's start off with the D class. Okay, so D class unfortunately is going to be our boy Red 13. I'm going to go ahead here. The only animal on the list. Cruelty to animals essay. So here's the reason why, okay? And again, remember, there's no need to think of it as in he's the worst character in the game. I'm going from a perspective of the developers treat him the worst in the game, okay? That's pretty much the perspective. It's not that he's the worst character by me. He's the worst character by the devs, okay? And there's a reason behind this. Now, why is Red 13 the worst character? Well, a couple of reasons. Number one, he's got the least amount of love of anybody here except for Barrett. It's the only other one who's got just as little love as Red 13. Most of his weapons are not impactful from a DPS perspective. Some of them are actually decent, but they're not like huge. There's no power creep weapons. There's no weapons that you'll be like, oh my god, this is the best element weapon, or this is the best non-elemental weapon, or he's got a good variety of weapons. What he does though, like bring to the table as a character is he does bring good debuffs and buffs. But they're very far few in between, unfortunately. So Red 13 is just not getting any love from the devs. Prime example is he just got a costume for the Rebirth release with no weapon. Now there might be a part 2, who knows when the game actually releases, and we may see a Red 13 weapon drop then, and that may alter his rating a little bit from that point of view. But right now, unfortunately, he's just sitting at the bottom of the table. Now, I would say he's probably the worst right now in terms of treatment for a character. Next up would probably be Barrett. Now, Barrett is a little better than Red because I personally feel like he's got a little bit more power. He's got a little bit more options in regards to damage, and he has like really good buffs. So, especially Assault Gun. Now, Assault Gun, of course, is being kind of now replaced. Now, you have to keep in mind, Barrett only has one actual costume that's been released, and that was the first banner from Murasame. So you could technically argue he could also be a D-class character. It's a little bit difficult right now with Barrett, right? Because he does have, in my opinion, a better variety than Red for damage, but he also isn't as good as a debuffer as Red. So you kind of have to like take that into perspective. Now, because this game does rely more on damage than it does on debuffs, because a lot of people can debuff, damage is a different, like a lot of people can damage, but obviously damage is kind of what makes you win and lose in a battle for the most part, because it's mostly a DPS race, right? A lot of it is like dungeon ranking. You want to DPS as fast as you can, hit as hard as you can, get more points. Some monsters will enrage, etc., unless you DPS damn quick enough. So Barrett, I'm going to give him a C. Actually, no, this is hard. I almost want to give him a D, just because honestly I feel like they are treated the worst, these two. But we're going to give him a C for now, just to kind of say, you know what, he's much better than, not much better, he's slightly bit better than Red 13. Okay, what Barrett obviously doesn't have, that Red 13 does have though. Red 13 has a regen heal. Barrett does not have that. So, but Barrett does have more damage options. So there's that to consider, right? So I mean, Barrett could be a D. We'll put him in C for now. We may adjust that. Hopefully get some love during the next banner. But let's go on to the next character now, okay? So the B ranks. Let's talk about some B ranks. Now, Zach, our boy Zach. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Before we do Zach, let's do Glenn. Glenn's moved up from C to B now because he has himself the automatic move, or the weapon, right? The automatic weapon is actually a really, really strong single target damage dealing weapon, which also gives you the X sigil on top of it and is very, very powerful. It has a really high percentage of 1,000 plus. So because of that one weapon, he was currently at, last time I think he was at C. We're going to toss him up to B. He does take over Barrett's positioning, because Barrett, I think, him were tied before, but because of automatic, obviously, it has altered the rating a little bit, giving Glenn more of an option to be a main DPS. And plus, of course, he has lampposts and stuff to boost more physical damage, and a couple other good options to do for elemental damage. And overall, Glenn has a ton of HP. So overall, good unit. Much better than it was before, but still not the top of the list. Zach was actually below Glenn before. Zach is now moving on up. I would say probably to the top NB. I'm going to put him in the top NB here. Only because now he's got that ceremonial sword. Yeah, and Twinkling Star. So he's got two really good options here for DPS. His costumes are getting better as well, too. His newest costume isn't that great, but it can be used to make him a little bit more of a debuffing hybrid unit. But with his new weapon being 5 ATB and 14,000, sorry, using 14,000, 1,400 DPS or percentage for damage, he definitely has move on up, especially because it gives him high physical attack as well, too. So we could technically put him low A, or I can put him top B. So right now, I still think he's a top B unit, but with Twinkling Star, actually, you know what? Let's give him an A, because Twinkling Star and that outfit that came out with it actually made a pretty big difference in his DPS and overall his usability as a character. So we're going to put him low level A. We'll put this in hierarchy, okay? So you guys can see that. Now, next up is going to be Lucia. I still think she has one edge above Zach. She's got better elemental weapons. She's got better overall options for builds. She has really, really powerful sub weapons as well too, and overall just a better DPS to bring to the fold than Zach. Even though Zach does have the power creep weapon, she just has a lot more elemental options than he does, and ones that actually work well with Holiday Revolver. She's got Serpent Eater, and then she has the Thunderbird as well too, right? So she's got a really good plethora of options. Plus, she's got some pretty good non-elemental damage weapons as well too. So overall, I think Lucia still is a step above Zach right now. That may change. What she does lack that Zach does have, Zach has actually better outfits at the moment. Now, I know Twinkling Star came out and it's still pretty good. And I know the ceremonial sword might give Zach a slight edge above her. Maybe. I'm still on the fence on this one. I prefer the elemental damage that she brings than Zach's ceremonial sword. So I'm going to put her in A still. I'll put her at the top end of A, and I'm going to keep him at the lower rung of it. Okay, so I think this is a fair breakdown of these units. Now, let's talk about the S class. These are the last few people who are going to be in S here. Okay, so first off, Matt. Matt is going to be the lowest tier of S, but he deserves it. He's got the best array of buffs, debuffs, buffs and healing of any character, in my opinion, personally. Even over Aerith. I think Aerith is a way better DPS healer, but he's a better buffing healer. Not to mention he has, of course, his Limit Break that also buffs with shields. He's got Core Defender. He's got the newest Centipede, obviously. So those, and of course, Prime Number being the main healing weapon of choice now. The Centipede is probably going to be the best one, and people probably start moving away from Prime Number over to Centipede once they get it leveled up. So I would say he's the lowest rung S at the moment. Next up, we're going to put, is going to be Aerith. Probably the most amount of costumes, probably the most amount of versatility in this game. Has healer, debuff, buff, DPS, can do it all, but doesn't really excel in anything specific except for healing, of course, and she's a really good elemental damage dealer. Now that she has the wind element as well to reduce, she's going to be the higher top. I would say she's a little higher in the tier. I would put her one step above Sephiroth. Sephiroth is also S class now. I moved him on up because he's becoming a better physical damage dealer. He's becoming a better debuffer, and overall still has some of the best magic, the best magic damage in the game. So he just isn't as versatile as Aerith. So Aerith can bring a lot more to the table than Sephiroth, but Sephiroth can just do it better. But having those options with Aerith, of course, is going to make a big difference. Now she brings wind defense down. He brings fire defense down. So they both are kind of, I would put them equal footing now at this point in regards to where they stand. Tifa would be next in line as probably I would say the second best character in my opinion now. This will be, so we'll go here like this. 1, 2, 3. Let's just put these together, 3 and 4. And then, of course, last one being Cloud. Cloud still is the best character in the game. He's got the most abundance of elemental weapons, the best costumes, the best overall kit, the most amount of damage, can heal, can buff, can debuff, can do it all. So Cloud will be your number one character, rightfully so. He's a poster boy of the game, And I'm sorry guys, I completely forgot about Yuffie. So she is going to be in A class as well too. Probably the best A class actually between Lucia and Zac. Now that she's a viable DPS as well as an incredible debuffer, probably the queen of debuffing at the moment for elements. Not quite as good as Tifa still for overall, but one of the better characters and one of the best introductory characters. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with everybody else. So Yuffie will sit at the top of A, just a slight bit lower than the S class. Again, she would have been a little bit lower if she didn't get that DPS wind damage, but because of that, that puts her up there. So there you guys go. Sorry about missing her. I completely forgot for you fans. So that there, guys, is your tier list. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the comment section. These always bring up a good conversation, so I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. This is Payne. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take care.